I'm here to help women reset and rewild, to embrace and prioritize the pauses in order to reclaim their peace and power. I'm Dr. Michelle Peris, director of the Poppy Clinic and founder and CEO of the Wild Collective. As a disruptor, naturopathic doctor, wife, and mama, I've created a global movement and sacred space for women to rise together. Here, you'll break through limitations, romanticize your life, and unlock the magic of your divine feminine power. My life's work is rooted in community, lifting women into their most powerful, authentic selves, while empowering clinicians to elevate their practices with a transformational, community-driven model. I lead a thriving, passion-fueled business and naturopathic practice brimming with abundance, where I can guide women to invigorate their lives through sisterhood and elevate healthcare with a cutting-edge transformational approach. I've witnessed firsthand in my practice how this model sparks consistent health transformation, creates flourishing communities, and brings profitable success. You can have it all, a life filled with abundance, contagious joy, and untethered potential. So pull up a seat. It's time to pour into yourself and tap into your intuition and design a life that's wild, free, and uniquely yours. And I'm going to show you how. This is Wild Medicine.
All right. Welcome back to Wild Medicine. This week, we're talking to you about something really, really important. So we wanted to lead with a scenario. She was 10 days into her weight loss program, feeling better than she had in years. Her body was responding. Her energy was back. And then someone put a charcuterie board in front of her at a dinner party, and she ate it. Not because she was hungry, not because she'd lost motivation, but because she couldn't bear the idea of making anyone else uncomfortable. And the next morning, she let us know, saying, I am the worst for doing this. I think I'm the only one this happens to. And we want to use this episode to let you know that you are not the only one, that we see this all the time. And it is the thinking traps that get in the way of long-term sustained results. So welcome, Dr. Tara. Last week was your solo episode.
Yeah, nice to be back together.
Yeah, we came together with this idea of identifying the thinking traps that get in our patients' way for long-term maintenance results. I think if you've been listening for a while, you know that her and I have a unified opinion that, anyone can do anything for a short period of time and lose the weight and get the results that they desire. The thing that we are so interested in is not only having a strategy that helps patients in that phase, but how are we going to help them long term? How are we going to help them meaningfully move the needle forward to be able to feel like they have a better relationship with their plate, with their body, with their thoughts? And so through discussing at length, because we are just absolutely equally obsessed about how we can help our patients more consistently get results, we decided to make one of our mindset calls available for patients, prospective patients, people who are on the fence about shed. Is this really the thing that we need to do? We made this available for free so that you could start to get an idea of what it is we do and how we coach our patients behind in the container of shed. And through that, we had to really identify, where do we see our patients get tripped up the most? Where do we see people get really confused and make a whole lot of meaning out of things with respect to their thinking patterns that actually ultimately ends up in them sabotaging their results? So this episode is for the person who has tried everything, who truly knows what to do and still finds themselves back at the beginning, starting over every Monday and negotiating and all the things. The reframe we want to establish immediately is that this is not that there's something inherently wrong with you, because there isn't. But what we do need to have a conversation around are the patterns and the thought processes that we have on repeat in our mind that can be named and once identified can actually be changed. And that's how we're able to meaningfully help our patients in the long run establish a new relationship with food, with their body, with their compliance to their programs. So let's talk about what a thinking trap is. A thinking trap is an automatic, largely unconscious thought pattern that feels like truth, but is actually a conditioned response. So the things that we either witnessed from a very young age or started to hold on as beliefs from a very young age, they start to just create this thinking pattern that trips us up. And so we're going to talk about the 5 most common ones that we see in our patient demographic. And when our patients are brave enough to sit in the arena of hard, as we call it, with us and move through this is why we get to witness them really be in their power for the long run. Where we feel shed really rises and compared to anything else is that we don't skip out on the mindset piece, that there are daily mindset calls, there's journal prompts, there's community to start to unpack these things that come up for us. We're seeing our patients on a weekly basis, and when things arise, we're sitting with them to help them move through these pieces once identified. And we truly both feel, and you guys probably heard us say a million times, but we don't want to work with anyone who isn't serious about this piece. And the reason why we think shed comes out on top is because this is an integral part, if not foundational part of shed. If you want to look a little bit more into the research that we've, really put into this episode and really put into our years of practice, personally, in our practice with our patients, you can look at perspectives by Aaron Beck with CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy. One of the things that I know Tara's talked about at length, given her background, is how many we have 80,000 thoughts a day, and 80 to 85% of them are negative and repetitive. This is why this conversation matters. And this is why when we actually talk about the root cause, the real root cause. So there's the symptom expression of gaining weight or food chatter or having difficulty meal planning or getting to the gym. And then there's the real root cause of not feeling worthy or afraid of failure or all the things that you were exposed to. Well, no one in my family was ever able to succeed, therefore I will never be able to succeed. But all these thoughts that we think are who we are just repetitive thinking traps. And once we recognize the patterns, we can actually make new patterns. And that's really the exciting thing, is that there's the science behind neuroplasticity, that if we start, shifting our thinking, that we can actually create new patterns and thought processes, and really looking at the neuroscience of habit loops and working on cue, routine, reward, and how thinking patterns become neurologically grooved over time, and how we can shift that.
Yeah. And we talked about this in other episodes too, but I think it's so important, right? Those thoughts that we have, it reinforces those beliefs too. It's just one big cycle. And just like Michelle said, it is one of the things that we're really proud about with Shed, is that it's we're supporting you on all these different levels, and they're all so important for that long-term success. So the first trap that we wanted to get into today is food chatter, food noise. This is such a big one that we hear all the time. And so simply put, food chatter, it's that nonstop mental noise, mental chatter about food. So it can be something specific. So sometimes patients talk about craving the cookie or craving the donut, the thing that's in the fridge, the thing that's in the pantry, a really specific craving and obsession for that thing. Or it can be a continuous background noise of wanting the food, thinking about food all day. What we see is that there's lots of different reasons for this. So often when we get patients into Shed, into the program, and we really start to change the way that they're eating, we change the palate. Something that we talk about so often is that this program changes your taste buds. It literally changes your taste buds. We hear all the time from patients raspberries are amazing. Right? I didn't know my apple could be this good. It really changes your taste buds, and that changes your desire for foods on the other side of this. And then there's also a lot of other things that we see with this too. So often there is a nervous system component here, and that can have to do a lot with restriction, right? So if you're someone that's been on that binge and restrict kind of cycle for years, like yo-yo dieting, that level of restriction can cause this obsession with food and always thinking about, always craving certain foods that you feel that you shouldn't have or that are bad foods, right? It can create this, like wanting to do that thing so badly and always bringing yourself back from the edge of it. And then another big piece too that we talk so much about is blood sugar dysregulation. That's a huge piece of the puzzle when it comes to that constant food noise and food chatter. And that's something that we're so intentional about, especially on the other side of the program. When we get people into maintenance, we are really diligent about making sure that patients are getting enough protein, enough fiber, and actually eating enough food. It's so often the case where patients get into maintenance and they say, I don't think I can eat this many calories of whole foods. Like, this is so much food. I've never eaten so much food. And I always think that's such a win, right? Because again, so many patients are in this cycle of the binge, the restrict cycle, and that our blood sugar does not like that. It's a really dysregulating state. When we're eating enough, when we're nourishing properly, when we're getting enough protein, that really helps to stabilize blood sugar throughout the whole day. And we have lots of strategies that we talk to with our patients about that, like looking at the research of having a breakfast that is high in calories and high in protein. That is really supportive from a blood sugar perspective for the rest of the day. And even patients that have so much of this chatter when they start the program, by the end, when they're loaded up on protein and they're eating more than they ever have before, that chatter goes away. When the body is properly nourished, and I think we can think about it too, is that food chatter, our body is wise, right? It's one of the ways that our body is telling us that we're not filling all the needs that we have, right? Like, what if we actually tune into that chatter and we use that as a lesson for how we do this differently on the other side? And we so often find that when we help patients figure out those pieces and actually nourish properly, that chatter really melts away. And that's a really beautiful part, because a lot of patients really struggle with that and it drives a lot of their decision making. So that's a big piece that we find, is that chatter, and it's a big trap.
Yeah. And I feel like it speaks a lot to that whole thought process that we've spoken about on underfueling, but overfueling, and undernourishing. And I think this is the confusing part when people are like, why undereat or whatever. We tend to be we tend to be nutrient deficient, which is driving that food chatter, but there's no problem with excess of calories. Whereas I would agree with you, like, it's amazing and profound. Actually, sometimes I'm blown away at the simplicity of our medicine of like protein optimization fixed 90% of cases of food noise and chatter. Okay, cool. Like, it is really profound and beautiful to see. And our nurse practitioner has shared with us that, there are some gene mutations and genetic considerations that we need to take into account. And those patients that are truly GLP-1 deficient, like, actually don't make it, actually have behavioral and cognitive issues with leptin and ghrelin and actually feeling full. And that's where you could make a case for microdosing GLP-1s long-term, because that food chatter is directly correlated to being genetically deficient. And a lot of considerations in terms of when we're navigating that with our patients is, that child has siblings and they were the bigger child since they were very young, right? There was some genetic propensity to not ever feeling full. And so I think that distinguishing factor is really important. But when we see the power of proper nutrition on that food noise, I mean, that's transformative for people. So many people tell us about food chatter being very disruptive to their everyday quality of life, which is why in maintenance, they tend to go back to what they were doing, because if no one's teaching them how to properly eat, they wind back up where they were, right? I had a patient say that to me last week. She was like, oh, I feel the difference now. We made one little tweak around protein with her food. And in a week later, she was like, now if I underfueled in grams of protein, she's like, I feel it. It's like, exactly. That's what we're trying to teach you, is that level of precision with your own body for you to know what it feels like to be optimized and for you to know what it feels like to not be optimized. And that is a really cool and powerful tool that you get to carry forward in life and being like, aha, here we go. It's so cool. Okay. Thought trap number 2, the failure to execute. I know what I need to do. I just need to do it thinking trap. We think in this case, these people really think they have a willpower problem. Like if they just had more willpower, if they just had more energy, if they could just. But what we've really unpacked with these patients is that at the core is they don't feel worthy of the thing that they say that they want. This is a self-worth wound or thinking trap that gets in the way. And I think where this is particularly healing for people to understand is hopefully the invitation is to feel an immense amount of self-compassion, that there's no such thing as willpower. Somebody doesn't have more willpower than you. What the invitation is to start reconciling is that if on the healing journey, if keeping your word to yourself starts to become more of a priority, all of a sudden it becomes a lot easier to do the things that you know to do. And we say this all the time, like our patients there is no shortage of information, right? We are way over consuming information, but what we do need to understand is the why we can't actually execute on the information that we have. If you don't feel worthy, this can show up in a lot of ways for people, right? If they never saw a family member succeed, if they're so used to starting every Monday, they think they're just inherently flawed or there's something wrong with them. A lot of the patients say to me, like, it's great that it works for everybody else, but not for it's just like we get in these traps of that really identify to us that there's a self-worth issue, not a willpower problem. So yes, through repeated cycles of yo-yo dieting, I had a patient in my office recently said to me, like, I am in my 60s and I have been dieting since I was 12, right? It's a lifetime struggle of yo-yoing and negotiating and feeling like her body is a project. And that's where we had this beautiful opportunity to like hold her to a level of compassion and kindness of like, what would it be like if you got to break that cycle and you just didn't have to do this anymore, right? But we are no strangers to the world telling us that we are not enough, that we need to look a certain way. And so we just keep pushing and starting over again. And it really does affect our self-worth. And a consequence of that is how well we can follow through on things. Because if we sabotage because we're like, I was never going to achieve it anyways, or like, I know, right? Then we can see how the thinking trap really gets in the way of long-term results. The distinction between willpower and self-worth. I think I highlighted this, but not that I even think willpower is a thing, but if it even is, it's a depleted resource. It's not something that we can like draw from. And I think what I learned on my own journey, which I think is really important to highlight as someone who really has have self-worth issues from time to time, it is hard, right? If you've never kept your word to yourself, like that is a tall drink of water. Like that is a hard task. And I really do think, and I think this is why we're so grateful for the time with our patients, is that it does take time, and it takes, sometimes breaking things down into microseconds or micro projects or micro breaths of like, what if I just kept my word to myself for this moment? What if I just got through this meal and did exactly what I said I was going to do? Or what if I just went to bed on time because I said that was like sleep was really important to me, right? We talk to our patients all the time about, what their values are. And then if their lifestyle habits match their values. And if they don't, there's a mismatch there. And often the mismatch has to do with worthiness, right? We don't want to let someone down if we don't think we deserve proper sleep or to see something through. A lot of people are really worried too. Like we fear success more than we fear failure. And so sometimes the self-worth issues keep us in belonging to others. So if people start to notice, sometimes we self-sabotage and get really uncomfortable with being seen. So not fully committing is a protective mechanism. we do to keep us safe. And what we need to understand about how the brain works is the brain is always going to choose, especially if our amygdala, our like primal primitive brain is flared up, which is why we use breath work. Fear is going to make the decision. Fear is making the decision. And we need to understand that it's just going to protect us, because belonging and feeling safe is going to always outride accomplishing the thing we say we want, right? Unless we understand what's going on, it's very difficult for us to discern and then course correct. So what rebuilding self-trust can look like in practice is truly like committing to going to bed at the same time, putting your phone out of your bedroom, meal prepping on Sunday when you say you're going to. It's these little micro moments where when we actually succeed, we start to titrate our confidence level towards someone who is worthy of keeping her word to herself. And really, like, that was my gym problem back in the day. Just didn't think I was going to keep my word to myself. And by the end of the day, I have zero motivation. So I always told my patients, like, if I really said I wanted to move my body every day, I had to do it first thing in the morning before cognition got in charge, because it's always going to tell me I don't want to do it. Right. So you have to build in these things. And the more you keep your word to yourself, and you can start with small, little, tiny things, like I'm going to put protein on my plate. Every single meal, I'm going to put protein on my plate. And if you do that, then you start to build a level of self-confidence and feel worthy, and willpower is no longer a thing. Like, I don't think anyone would ask me now, even thinking I didn't exercise that day, right? It's just become part of my identity. But it had to start with checking in with a friend and actually writing her check marks. Worked out today, I had to be accountable, right? So there's pieces there to building that self-worth, because I knew what I needed to do. I just wasn't doing it. So I had to pattern interrupt in order to make that a possibility.
Okay, we get it. It is super confusing to figure out how you should be eating, and you've probably been hearing a lot more about increasing your protein consumption. We've got you covered. If you are looking to understand how much protein you might want to consider, then please go check out our calculator. It will help show you what this looks like for your ideal body weight, what that looks like per meal and throughout the day, on days that you're strength training and on days where you're just a normal gal about the town. If you are looking to understand protein a bit better and want to bring that conversation to your regulated healthcare professional, then please go check out our calculator online in the show notes so that you can have a more strategic approach to your nourishment and to your protein levels. Your future self and vibrant energy will thank you.
Yeah. It's such a big piece, right? Like that integrity and building that trust. And I think that it really helps that we, like you were saying, like we spend time with our patients. Like we see our patients every week while they're in the program. And that's such an important part of the whole thing, right? It's because there's so much that needs to shift. And I always love at the end, like when patients are done, they're like, I did that, right? Like I saw that through. I did that. Like that is so, even that alone, committing to something and seeing it all the way through with no deviations.
You're not this
Huge.
person.
No, like, yeah, it's such an important lesson to be like, I can do that hard thing. Okay, if I can do that, maybe I can lift the weights and I can stay consistent. Maybe I can meal prep, right? It's like it becomes that like, well, if I did that, what's next? It's like the positive what ifs. It's
Literally, we rewire your brain.
yeah. It's really cool. And I think that's a really good segue to our third trap, which is all about belongingness.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is something that we talk to probably every single patient about. It always comes up. Because when you decide to lose weight, there's a lot of things that change. And your role in your family unit, in your friend circle, it changes. It does change. I remember I had a patient recently and someone at work said to her, she said, "You're not the fat friend anymore." And she told me, and I was like, oh, what a hard thing to be told. And she said, before that would have derailed me. Like, how destabilizing to know, like, it's like your identity is changing, and for it to be called out in that way. And it just shines such a light on the fact that everyone notices that you're changing. You don't want to come out with us anymore. You're too good for us. Like, there's so much there. There's so much there. And so often a comment like that brings you right back, right? You're like, I give up. I don't want to do this anymore, right? I don't want to be different. I don't want that kind of attention. And she said that, she's like, that would have been really destabilizing before. And now I was like, huh, that is so rude. That is so rude to say. And I know what I'm doing, and I'm going to keep on keeping on. But it's challenging, right? And we see it all the time, like the example you shared right at the beginning with someone put something in front of you and you don't want to say, I don't want that, actually. That doesn't align for me anymore, or whatever it is, right? And what are we so scared of? We're scared to not belong, right? But that fear is not truth, right? Saying, no, thank you, I ate before I came. No one really cares, right? I had a patient just a few days ago, and she said she went to an event and she got a sparkling water with lemon in it because she's in the program and she can't drink alcohol. And she's like, yeah, and it was fine. I'm like, isn't it interesting how no one cares? She's like, it's so interesting. You think everyone cares that you're not drinking. No one cares. No one cares, right? It is such a fear. It's this good girl conditioning that we have. It runs so deep that it feels like setting a boundary or saying no or whatever it is feels so impossible, feels so destabilizing. But people don't really care. They're really not paying attention. And if it triggers them, and it does, and we always say this to patients too. And I said this recently to a patient. I'm like, the hardest part of this program is other people. And she's like, what do you mean?
100%.
What do you mean? 2 weeks later, she's like, I understand, right? And it is hard. It is hard. People will make comments. And what we say too is that your weight loss will shine a light onto other people, right? It shines a light on their habits and what might not be working for them in their life. And it can be really confronting. And without all of the mindset support that is built into this program, it would cause you to fold. It just would, because that pressure can feel so intense. But it's what we talk about constantly in this program, is setting the boundaries, making yourself a priority. And it just, it goes back to even the last trap, right? Of like having that, keeping your word with yourself, knowing that you are important enough, that you matter enough, that your needs are important. You don't have to be the person that just follows along and does what everyone else thinks she should. And it's a big trap that we see really often with our patients.
Yeah. And I think this is why we did our best to build in community too, to help people be buffered and get the support to know they're not alone, because insanely, it is fringe to be healthy these days. It is atypical, it is unusual, and people are very triggered, and it has everything to do with what's coming up for them. But like your point about declining the alcoholic beverage, it's the first time that feels really hard, and then no one cares, and you're like, oh, no one noticed. Okay, moving on. But if we never give ourselves the opportunity of having that first time where we decline or do something different, we just fold, we collapse to what the collective is doing, then we never give ourselves the opportunity to get the learned experience and the breathing room of like, wow, that wasn't as big of a deal as I thought it was, right? But it can be so difficult. And so I think armoring our population with community at the same time, or buffering the transition for them and helping them realize that they are not alone in this journey. It is absolutely okay to want to feel good in your body and to shed what no longer serves you. I just think this is just such a big one, because I mean, it's even why we run the Wild Collective, was we know how important belongingness is. And if we don't have the communities that can help foster new behavioral change, it can be very difficult, because it is a primal threat to not belong. And you're going to have to meet that every time until you've set a boundary yourself and regulated yourself through that first moment. Then you're like, oh, it's not that scary. Nobody really cares, right? Like, people, if they're good friends, they'll love you anyways, right? But it's so hard. Like, to the point of your patient, like to have that be said about you, like that would be, kudos to her for like really being able to be brave enough to see through that and trust herself enough to go another day to, to forge her own way and still be in communion with people, but relating differently to her friends now.
Yeah. And I think too, part of this is that we have to allow people around us to rise to the occasion, right? It's like
Totally. Well
we're
said.
almost we're stopping ourselves. Like, let's allow, like, if we share, hey, I'm doing this for my health, and here's the boundary, and here's what I'm willing to do, here's what I'm unwilling to do anymore. So many patients have that conversation with their husbands, with their kids, grown kids. And sometimes that does create friction in the marriage or the family unit. And then if you consistently hold that healthy boundary, people will rise. People will rise and they will respect it. You're not doing any, like saying, hey, I want to meal prep on Sundays. It's not harmful, right? There's no harm being done. It's just new and it's just different. And if we just gave people the opportunity to come around, often they do. But we get so nervous about that we just won't even have the conversation anyways. Like that momentary discomfort.
It's such a beautiful point you share, because like it's an advanced thought in Wild Collective, but it's this idea, we talk about it a lot in Wild, is that good girl tax of being so sophisticated at our censorship that we can censor ourselves in live time and make what we're saying palatable to whoever's in front of us. That's how good we are at making sure that we're pleasing to everybody. And what happens is that as a consequence, we never give people the opportunity to rise to the occasion and actually transform the relationship as you know it. And funny you bring it up, but a patient just shared with me recently a before and after photo of her and her husband. And she did the program years ago and has maintained her results, absolutely crushing it, more well-muscled, like thriving. And she said, because of those changes, because of those shifts, because it changed our household, also look at how healthy my husband looks, right? Like, what is the potential benefit of actually being brave enough to let people grow with you? And how could that deepen and make the relationship even better? Any change is going to have momentary friction, and understanding and neutralizing and understanding is just that. It's just momentary friction. But on the other side could even be a more healthy relationship, a more passionate relationship, a more aligned relationship. Like we just cut people. We never even give them the opportunity to rise to the occasion. It's so true. Like we want to handle everything and we don't want to ever make anything anybody's problems because we were wired in a certain way. In our modern phenomena of women is like, make sure you can handle all things and don't depend on anyone. We forgot to ask and include people in our growth. And it's such an opportunity cost. So thank you for bringing that up, because I think it's a huge one. Your next thinking trap, and I'm going to riff on this, is that health is boring, right? So there is this like, and I understand, I see you, no judgment, but there is this like perception. And I think the hesitancy to like join us in Shed is like, what's life going to look like on the other side? Is it just boring and mundane for the rest of my life? There's no joy. There's right? Like that, it just like, it's such all or none thinking that people don't even give themselves the opportunity to redefine what that is. So there is this conditioned belief, especially, and I think you highlighted this with social, is that healthy living is joyless, it's restrictive, it's unsustainable, it's not fun, leading to the resentment of the very changes that are producing the positive results, right? That this is going to be forever spiral thinking trap. This belief comes from diet culture and this legacy of punishment-based health. Absolutely, right? Like there's phases and crazes. We're all aware of them. The master cleanse, the cabbage soup diet. Like I've heard of all of these. I've done the master cleanse, right? Like the only way to get results, the only way to achieve health is like doing these really extreme things, and that there's no middle ground, right? The truth is that food isn't actually boring. It's that the nervous system has been using food as its primary source of pleasure, reward, and regulation. And so part of a lot of the work that we do is untethering those ideas. And we saw beautiful conversation in the chat just this week about this. Like, these mindset calls are really landing for me. And like food has been a source of pleasure and reward for me. What are you doing now that you're on the other side of this? Which is like the best question. And there was such beautiful feedback from our community of like, now I do this, now I do this. And one of the most beautiful things that I was going to contribute that other patients contributed for me, which I was so proud of, was that when you start feeling worthy in your life, when you start prioritizing your own joy and all these things, you don't really need to reward. Like it starts to neutralize, like even your need to reward things, like you already feel worthy, right? It starts to shift. You already are a priority in your life, right? So we watched that just happen in live time in our chat. Patients coaching other patients on like what their lived experience is. And I would say that that became true for me too, is that those things stopped being the thing I needed to feel something, some kind of reward, right? I already was feeling worthy. And I think that's a really beautiful piece. So when food becomes simpler, everything that food was doing emotionally becomes visible. I mean, that's why we love the reset. And what a gift. I was just even thinking when you were saying like us seeing our patients weekly, it is a gift because my clinical practice before that never ran like that. Like what would have health looked like if I, enforced patients saw us every week, right? It probably would have been different because we could have sat in these conversations where we have to deal with and sit with and befriend the emotions that are now becoming visible because we've taken away the things that used to satiate whatever was frenetically already making them uncomfortable, right? Like in their body, right? So this is the power of working with us so intimately. But the reframe is what opens up when food stops being the entertainment, what fills that space, so being able to design a routine, being able to understand how you would navigate your world if you felt worthy. Our brains thrive on predictability, and our cultures convince us that thriving looks like novelty and excitement. And the biology of why consistently feels boring and why that feeling lies. So I think this is such a true piece, is that because of social media too, we love the novelty of a new strategy. We love the excitement of everybody doing something, the feeling how they're claiming to feel, which is all usually not true. And because we all love a good dopamine spike, which is why we all love Instagram, we feel like the consistent things that actually help nourish us and make us feel like we're thriving are considered boring. And so there is this reconciling and titrating and this neutrality of the truth of these pieces, is that we actually feel well when we are basic and boring and we're doing the most essential things on repeat. And I mean, the evidence is there. This is a non-negotiable now. Patients who eat on repeat, who eat at the same time, who understand how their metabolism works and fuel accordingly consistently day after day, majority of the time. It doesn't mean there's no fun. Our patients have glasses of wine, they have birthday treats, they go on vacation, they don't live in a bubble, but they do the things that drive the needle forward on a consistent basis, that they understand that routine is what is serving them. And the evidence is clear. Those who do that maintain a healthier weight for longer. It is at this point completely clear at how important that is and why we need to bring this to the table, that there's two pieces. Why do we think this is boring, and why do we need to understand this differently? And that's huge in the work that we do.
Yeah. And it's so interesting that boring is the word that comes up, right? And like that we use for food and for fueling our body. And it's, like I think about some of my eating patterns years ago, like totally didn't know, right? Just underfueling, overeating the things, like no protein, like just not good, right? And like what I call now more boring, like, I don't know. It's just, I know how to actually fuel my body now. And it's like, I just had a patient really recently, and she said she just finished the program, and she's like, yeah, I'm never going back. I'm never going back. Because when you feel so good, you are so unwilling to feel like shit. And why is that boring, right? Like, it's so good to feel so good. Food, it's like there's so much. I think part of the mental chatter with food too is we have to eat so often. We have to eat 3 times a day.
Oh, it's confusing, genuinely. Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, that's a lot. And so that requires a lot of planning and a lot of all the things. Like now that I meal prep, I don't think about food. It's lunch in the fridge, eat the lunch. Like, it actually is so freeing. It's not boring, it's freeing to know that the food is there, that I'm going to eat this and I'm going to feel so good. I'm going to have consistent energy to get through the afternoon. No crash. Like, that's a really freeing feeling, actually. Like, call it boring, call it whatever, but there's so much freedom on the other side of this.
Yeah, I just thought like it's like the prevention of decision fatigue.
Yeah.
One of the other lies I feel like our school fueled us with is that variety was the absolute necessary thing. Well, how stressful is that, right? Like, I need all colors of the rainbow. I need to eat all these. So the pressure of, to your point, we have to eat 3 different times in the day minimum. And we're like reinventing variety. Like, how exhausting. And we're already way over inundated. And that's what I say to my patients, like, take this one thing off your plate. Make your lunches on Sunday. It's like you said, it's what I'm eating. There's just no energy expenditure. There's no emotional drama around it. It's just taken care of. You fuel yourself. You feel better. You get the reward of being basic and boring. And all of a sudden you're like, whoa, this is a different way of living. Like my patient said, I feel the difference. Like you should. You absolutely should know how that food affects your body. And if you don't, then there's probably inflammation or something else talking that's getting in the way of you having this direct access of how powerful this piece is.
This episode is brought to you by our Shed Metabolic Reset program. Look, I know there's a lot of programs out there and it can be very overwhelming, especially when it comes to weight loss and long-term fat loss and finding the right program for you. We have an incredible metabolic reset program, one that does thorough investigative work up front, looking at blood work metrics, helping educate you, a really solid, simple plan to follow in the reset phase, as well as long-term education around how to maintain your weight loss for the long term, how to optimize your health, how to increase metabolic flexibility, and how to build your plate so that you are nourished and the strongest version of yourself. Our program includes a lot of care and support with our integrative healthcare team. It is a medically supported program. We include community support, education support, as well as daily mindset calls. We are all about optimizing your health for the long term. This is the exact program that helped me shed 30 pounds and keep it off for 4 years and counting. So if you feel like a reset is something you would like to consider, a pause to help calibrate, come home to yourself, lower inflammation, boost your energy, learn how to confidently build your plate for longevity, then please head over to poppyclinic.com and you will see that there is a pop-up quiz that will get the process started of seeing if Shed Metabolic Reset program could be for you. If it is, we will connect, and I cannot wait to support you in living the most aligned, harmonious life, one that reclaims peace and confidence in your body and teaches you how to eat for long-term health. I'll see you soon.
Yeah, so true. So powerful. Prep number 5. We have a lot to say about this one. Catastrophic thinking. This is, this comes up all the time, right? And we see it, we get to see this so much in the program. And I think that it is so wonderful when we get to see it, because it is such an opportunity in the safe container of the space to learn that nothing is black and white, especially when it comes to our bodies. And especially as women, how hormones will naturally fluctuate. Like what we tell our patients is once they get into maintenance, and even when they're in the active phase, the weight loss phase of the program, it's natural for your weight to fluctuate. It's natural. It's normal. It's healthy. Hormones are doing their hormonal things, right? Like it's so we see it. And this goes back to what we talked about in a previous episode, because this is what we do and we do so much of it. We really understand, like if someone is in a stall, if the number on the scale goes up, we can look at your in-body report and we know why. We can tell you why with pretty good certainty. Like it's like a cool level of precision, because we just get to do this so often. And it's It's a wonderful learning opportunity when patients, when they're in a stall, when their weight is staying exactly the same. If the number on the scale goes up, it's, a lot of the mental chatter when that happens is, I should give up. This isn't working for me. It's everything. The stories really flare. And it's a good opportunity to see, are there worthiness things that we need to talk about that are popping up, right? Like, it's so much meaning is made of something that is truly meaningless if you are following the program to a T, right? And so we tell patients at the end, it's natural for your weight to fluctuate 3 to 5 pounds in the course of a month. It's natural. And all the time, patients in maintenance, they come back, they're like, okay, I think my weight's up a little bit. They get on the scan, do their scan, muscle mass is up. Body fat continues to go down, right? All the time, all the time. Like, the number on the scale is lying to you. It doesn't mean much. It doesn't mean much. Even a bowel movement, like if you're constipated, like what that weighs is fascinating. Fascinating. When you're in your luteal phase, which is the phase right before you get your period, water retention is up. We see this on our in-body scan. Like, we can see all of these pieces, and that's really helpful with the catastrophic thinking, right? We see that so much, and that helps to really build tolerance for these things in maintenance when we don't see you once a week, right? Because it's going to happen. It's going to happen. And even you're going to have a birthday. You're going to go on vacation. The scale at some point is going to go up, and that's okay. You have to trust yourself. You have to trust your body that even if, you're enjoying life to the fullest, you're on vacation, whatever it is, when you get back on track, when you eat your protein, when you do all of your things, trust that your body is wise. Your body knows what it's doing, that you will come back. You will come back. But it's like that diet starts Monday, right? It's that same.
Instead of throwing in the towel at that moment.
Exactly. Like, that's where things derail, right? It's like, oh, well, I'm up 1 pound. Might as well
Going
gain
in
it all
that
back.
direction. I may as well have
Yeah.
the chocolate bar, whatever insane thing.
Yeah, right? It's so much of that thinking, and we get to really speak to that so well when patients are in the container of the program, because we get to see so much of that. It's predictable, and there's safety in knowing how to support patients through that.
Well, this is a bold statement, but I think it really speaks to what you're saying, but it's so true. And I think this is why this is so effective, especially with that catastrophic thinking, which we see all the time. And people at the beginning of the program will say, like, no, that I'll be good. Like, I hear you, I'll be fine. And then it happens. And guess what? They're blowing up our chat. Believe me. Like, because we're human. We're all humans. There's no judgment.
Yeah.
I'm like that too.
Yeah, totally.
It's just like, it's like it sounds fine in our intellectually, but we have to go through experience. We actually have to sit with those parts that are very, very triggered and charged when it feels like things aren't working. And the bold thing I want to say is, when you have a program that has really good understanding and certainty of how it works when it's being followed exactly, then we take that part out of the mix and we're like, okay, we already know that part, like, is there. So let's sit with the emotions that are actually coming up for you, because that's not real. Unless something is not being fully shared or disclosed, that's not a factor. So if that's not a factor, then what is really coming up? And what a rare opportunity that a patient actually has that as the reality of, like, this has predictable ways of moving. My doctors completely understand the behavior. They can see it on the in-body. So if all of those pieces are no longer variables, then what is left? Not feeling worthy, that it's too hard, that it's whatever. And now we have, like, to your point, we're neutralizing the charge, and we are titrating them towards these really difficult feelings in the active phase of the reset, so that by the time they go into stabilization and maintenance, they've met those feelings and sensations before. They've sat with those parts, they've neutralized the charge around that, and therefore it doesn't derail them. And one of my favorite things is, like, in stabilization, or it sounds cheeky, but it's true, or in maintenance, where a patient writes and they're like, my weight is up. And I'm like, huh? What's going on? We look at their nutrition, and then we say, okay, like just keep doing what you're doing. And the weight comes down, they come to their first 1 month appointment. They get on the scale, to your point. They put on a lot of muscle. They've shed body fat. Their weight is either the same or lower. And they're like, and you watch them start to soften into this trust of like, I understand my body. And all those episodic moments in our life where we gave them a whole lot of meaning and we catastrophized with that initial sensation because no one ever taught us to sit with those parts of ourselves. And so then we spiral out of control instead of giving them the opportunity to go, it's just a moment. I'm luteal. I'm retaining water. I didn't have a bowel movement today. I went on vacation. I ate in excess at dinner last night. This is what is supposed to happen. This is a human body doing the thing that the human body does. And it's okay. And I'm safe. It's going to happen. And weight goes up and weight goes down. And it's just like this beautiful level of like, it's like a nervous system softening. It's like their body relaxes. Like, I can trust myself and I can say, and I speak to this because I am the catastrophic thinker. This was the healing thing for me, was like, okay, I'm not a mystery, you know?
Yeah, it's peace. It's
It's peace.
finding peace. Yeah. And I think that's what we're all after. And with all of the yo-yoing and the binge and the restrict, like those cycles of dieting since you were 12, and like all our patients say this all the time, I just want peace in my body. And to get to that place where you understand how your body functions. I just think that's the biggest gift in this program is you just understand. Like patients say that when they start tracking, and we have trackers and we can see everything that's being inputted and they upload, and they say like, I've never really understood macros before. I've never really understood like what it all means and how to properly track. And it's such good information. Like that is a vehicle to understand our body, understand our needs so much better. It's such a peaceful thing to know that and to know how to actually fuel your body. And like just the mystery's gone, right? The mystery is gone. And yeah, it's such a peaceful experience to understand all of those pieces for yourself.
Yeah. And understanding that to get to peace, that there is going to be friction and challenge. It has to be there, right? Because for us to feel peaceful about something means that we are inviting in the processing of why that keeps coming up for us, right? And so just to create this permission field of like, that's why we sit with you so often. That's why we challenge you in this way. That's why we create the safe container of the reset. We remove factors that could be variables that could add confusion. We get rid of all of that. And we're like, oh, now like what's really going on? And let's do that. And then we start to watch truly peace is the consequence of doing that. It just is what is the result of being willing, you know? So just to highlight and reemphasize all the thinking traps that we often see in clinical practice, and if any of them landed with you, like send us a message. Like we'd love to connect with you over it. It honestly, like Tara said, like this is what we do day in and day out. We are fascinated by this work. We're grateful to do this work. It fuels us to help patients in this way. So trap one being food chatter and food noise, just that constant obsession. Number two being that failure to execute, that self-worth wound of like, I know what to do. I just need to do it. Thinking trap number three, that fear of being exiled from belonging. Someone puts something in front of you and you don't even know how to set the healthy boundary of someone who loves you and wants you to feel good, but you don't even know how you would set that boundary. Trap number four, health is boring and it's never going to be fun ever again. And it's joyless and unsustainable. And thinking trap number six, catastrophic thinking, that all or none thinking. You know, your body shifts one day and you just write it all off instead of just understanding that it is what it is and your body's doing exactly as it ought to do. None of them are character flaws or something that is inherently wrong with you. They are patterns in the background that have been running the show unchallenged for a really long time. And it is our job to sit with you, to challenge those ideas, and then to offer opportunities to reframe and help you think a new way. People who get lasting results are not the ones with more discipline. They're the ones who learn to name what was running in the background and willing to be brave enough to sit with us to find a new path forward, to neutralize the charge of that, and to titrate themselves towards challenging sensations until the point where they're like, my body's done this before. This isn't scary, right? Our daily mindset calls are something we're very, very proud of. That from the start, we wanted to offer our patients as an opportunity to really sit with. Tara and I have done Tara's done tons of psychology and CBT. We both have done a lot of mindset work. So we personally were very attracted to this level of health and healing and barrier to getting results. And so then building it into this just was a natural propensity to be like, what would it be like if we actually had the conversations we really want to have with our patients? Like truly the weight loss is the least interesting thing that we do in our practice. It's what brings people in our world because we understand that's how the world operates and the world is metabolically unwell. So it's an important part of the conversation, but it truly is the least interesting thing that we do. And if you are someone who feels like you start every Monday or you're tired of yo-yoing and you really want to see what it would be like to have that opportunity to be provided with a reframe, to understand what's actually being said in our mindset calls, we have a free resource ready for you to sample it completely just so you can understand, like, this is the level of coaching and support that you will receive when you join us in Shed. And, I'm really proud. I think we do a phenomenal job in a lot of ways, but I think our patients feel very deeply supported and know that there's never any judgment and they can have a bad day and need extra support and that we're there. That's what we did this for. So, our goal is really truly to be the last stop for patients, that they are liberated from the thinking traps that keep them sabotaging and going back to, their patterns and routines. We know the human potential. We see it all the time. We're never not totally inspired by humans who are just willing to have enough humility to just be curious and try it a different way and just put one foot in front of the other one day at a time and what's possible. And so we really hope that this conversation landed, that you saw yourself without judgment, with curiosity in one of these thinking traps. And if you want to learn more about the work that we do and the support that we provide our patients, then click the link in our show notes or connect with us on Instagram and start the conversation, because we would love to share our free resources with you and provide the support and care you need if Shed aligns for you.
That you enjoyed this episode, and we will see you next time. Stay wild.
Thank you so much for tuning in to Wild Medicine. I am so grateful to have you here, and I hope you're feeling inspired and empowered. If you enjoyed today's episode, please don't forget to subscribe and leave a 5-star rating. It helps us reach more incredible women just like you. And before you go, quick reminder, the information shared on this podcast is for educational purposes only and is not intended to diagnose or treat any medical condition. Please consult with your healthcare provider for personalized advice and care. And if you're ready to take inspired action and dive deeper into your own health journey, please visit us at poppyclinic.com. Let's rewild and reset your health together.